Okay, so I'm the last person in the panel today, the moderator, they are here. So my first reactions when, I was spoken about opto and on the lung discussion was this. I actually didn't realize that you also have this as the slide for that. This is like Titanic, if the Titanic did not see what exactly was happening and how big the iceberg was, it actually fell down. So what we see often is only a fraction part of what is actually shown. Most of that is hidden. And we are here to discuss the unhidden parts, the hidden parts of and reading in between lines, as we say. My subsequent reactions on opto was great learning. I mean, anybody and everybody who is there, I don't remember the last conference in which I sat through 9 o'clock in the morning until 4:30, and that was fantastic. And that is why, and I'm sure not only me, all of us are Jabra fan of opto. And whenever you have the opto next count main, I mean, I would be definitely willing to participate. So I have changed the schedule, and as usual, as expected. The first one is Gefitinib versus Gefitinib plus Pemetrexed and Carboplatin chemotherapy in EGFR-Mutated lung cancer. Again, my first reactions when I just saw this paper was Vanita Naroha, and I called it the KN regimen, the Kumar Naroha regimen, and that was my first reaction actually was respect. I still remember Sudeep Gupta presenting the CA cervix randomized control trial, and the picture came in the WhatsApp group, and it was very inspiring for all of us, slightly more younger at that time, and it prompted us to do something which was more better. Vanita did actually that, and a path-breaking trial. My subsequent reactions on this were, I have got a job to do, and I'm gonna see it through. I mean, although it's a trial which everybody is very fond of, the KN regimen, but we have a job to do, and we will definitely do it. So let me start with Dr. Bharat. So Dr. Bharat, 712 patients were assessed, and 350 patients were ultimately randomly assigned. Your thoughts on that? Is this a cause of concern?
So basically, apart from this is a single center trial.
Yeah. So single center, good or bad?
So first thing, this is the biggest trial in lung cancer for TKI from India, because we have been looking at the trials happening in the
Dr. Bharat, I said respect initially. We all respect Tata. We all respect.
So
Vanita is great friend. Kumar is fantastic mentor. Let's just get the job on done. So just because it's a single center study, biggest from India, does it qualify, when it comes to the kill? Does it qualify for that?
Important data in our patients. So forget about the numbers and no single center. I am looking at this is done in my patients. These are the real patients who are coming to my clinic. So rather than relying on Western data, I will follow this trial. This is what my answer is.
Okay. So 712 assessed. So Dr. Parikh, sir.
In the excluded, the last two are my concern. Died before evaluation and other reasons. That other reason, 90 patients, I think that is a concern.
So 90 and 26, 116 patients. Once you sign the consent, that's the ITT population assessed, and finally you take the 350. 116 patients died, and other reasons is slightly on the higher side. Dr. Muzammil?
So this is a real world data actually. So, you understand that patients do sign consent, but they may have other reasons. Something as idiotic as going for Ayurvedic therapy, this 90 I'm talking about. So there are so many reasons which happen. So,
but will you take the results with a pinch of salt?
Yeah, that is
Dr.
true.
Raja has the point over there.
Eligibility and randomization should not be a contest.
Okay.
Eligibility, that's even in a clinical trial. If I have 10 patients eligible, how many of them finally get randomized? So
okay, fair enough. Point well taken.
Merits of that statistics, eligibility is that's not a problem.
As long as everything is written in the paper, all the numbers, I think, it is in front of you, and then we can discuss this. Definitely, I have to look at that number also.
Okay.
It's an administrative issue, fair enough. But then one center is always a questionable thing, which you made the point. But a center of Tata's caliber, I think, acceptable.
And I would suggest that if this is real world, not clinical data, real world clinical trial data as well. Even in our clinics, when we are asking patients for enrollment into trial, initially they would consent and then finally they would withdraw. That's a common scenario.
Fair enough. So this 300 patient dropping is not between assessment and this thing is not a concern for us. Fantastic. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So they took all the patients of stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer who presented, were assessed, and EGFR report came in. And fair enough. Then the chemo was tried early. Fantastic. Okay. Okay. 21% of patients had a performance status of 2, and 18% of patients had brain metastasis. You know, I mean, so that's a good number actually. Sachin, is this the USP of the trial? That it's a real world kind of a data, or did it hamper the results in such way? You can't have both the ways.
Yeah, I won't say USP of a trial, but then that has broadened the utility of this particular conclusion that will be drawn from this particular trial.
Okay, Dr. Pushpak, you have not spoken till now. Okay. Yeah, you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is a plus point because this is what we usually get in Indian practice. Patient with metastatic disease usually have a poor performance status. So including a patient of performance status 2, obviously if you get a good result, gives a better outcome.
Okay, so I think a PS of 2 was taken, which was more of a real world scenario, was definitely a positive factor, and I would actually count it as a USP of the trial, and this trial dared to take 18% of patients which no other trial had taken. So I will definitely say it's a good result. These were the results which were presented by Dr. Vanita at ASCO 2019. Impressive or not impressive? Dr. Muzammil?
Yeah, obviously impressive.
Okay.
There's doubling of the PFS and OS. So I think it's a impressive data. The only question is that this data we are comparing today. We are talking about practice changing. So today we have other options, especially osimertinib.
So I'll come to osimertinib. Yeah, I'll come to osimertinib. We are all going to come to osimertinib.
One word, impressive.
Okay, one word, impressive. Sachin, impressive or not? Very impressive. Bharat?
So only the standard arm, Gefitinib showed 8 months, which is
okay. So not so convinced right now. We will come to that. Fair enough. So impressed? Impressed, definitely. Impressive? Okay, fantastic. Is the control arm the standard of care, as Dr. Bharat really said? You know, I mean, so we are discussing it today, but when the trial was designed, Gefitinib was the standard of care, and maybe the second generation TKIs had come. So is the control arm the standard of care, Dr. Muzammil? I mean, that's the criticism of this trial that is always there.
Yeah, that is what the question was. If you're comparing it today and trying to apply the data of this trial when it started, even today I'm telling you, out of 10 patients I see in clinic, only 2 will go on osimertinib.
Okay.
Remaining, I have to do something with either afatinib or Gefitinib. When I have an option like this becomes one of the options.
Okay. Wasn't the effort, and this is what I was always, what I always actually think about. You know, you read all the articles in 2004, 2005, 2007, 2008. You know, they said chemotherapy should be thrown out. You know, I mean, people had a PFS and OS of 8 to 10 months. Then Gefitinib came and we all went to the presentation and said, yes, we have an oral drug now. When the second generation came, you had a better survival. I mean, wasn't the thing all about, you know, quality of analysis? Amol is not there right now. You know, you're actually destroying a patient the quality of life. You started with avoiding chemotherapy, personalized medicine. Now you actually want to, you know, like in the PEACE trial, they say, you know, you want to add now DOSI plus a bioteron plus ADT. I mean, so your thoughts on that, Sachin?
For survival benefit.
For survival benefit. Yes.
So obviously by accepting an acceptable toxicity, we are improving the survival. So our every attempt was to improve survival beyond Gefitinib.
So FOLFIRINOX in a triple, okay fine, I'll give you an example. ABCP in a immunotherapy, in a PDL1 more than this thing. You know, patients have 4-day drug in a stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer. Why do you want to compromise on toxicity?
There is a difference. There is a difference between Gefitinib plus Pembro combination toxicity and the other regimes which you have been.
I will tell the toxicity later. Mark
so
your
basically
words.
I'll
tell you toxicity.
So basic idea here, you have Gefitinib, then you have afatinib, which was slightly costlier, and then you have osimertinib, which is beyond reach of for 90% of the patients.
So if it comes for 10 rupees,
yes,
this 10 rupee has become a new.
I am not going to use the chemotherapy. Why to give toxicity? You have to see the entire context, not only looking at osimertinib. If it is free to all, I would use osimertinib. Why to use a combination?
Okay. You said, Bharat, about the control arm underperforming. What is your thoughts on this? You know, it is just shown around 8 months actually over there.
So if you look at many trials of the Gefitinib as a standard care, somewhere it is 9 months, 11 months and 13 months in some of the trials. So this is probably the lowest, I think. So whether our patient, but here PS is 2 and then
maybe because of the
18%.
PS2 and 20% of patients who had taken brain meds, that is why it underperformed. Yes, Dr. Muzammil, you wanted to say
The
something?
same point I wanted to make. So
Okay.
I think it's okay. 8 months is not bad.
So you said 8 months is not bad. Now I'll show you two results. Now, what is happening over here is that it's a tale of two trials. This is the NEGA trial which was presented in by the Japan. And in this, the median overall survival in the Gefitinib arm is 38.8 months. The median PFS in the Gefitinib arm was 16 months. The median PFS was 52.2 months. Now you compare with this with the Tata. Similar trial, similar Gefitinib. Now we are only getting 16 months versus not reached. And they are getting 38.8 versus 52.2 months. So my point is, why this collaborating?
So the most important thing is supportive care. You can't compare the kind of supportive care.
But that is supportive care changing from 16 months to 38.8 months is a bit too, I would rather give. No, the overall survival in the osimertinib arm, in the Flora arm, is how much? 34.1 versus 26.8 months. In our setting, we are getting 26 point, not even getting something, 16 months. So my point is that is the denominator, Sudeep spoke about HR. Yes, Sachin.
I would say this is essentially because of post-progression therapy. We would definitely lack in post-progression therapy options available in our settings as compared to what is available in the rest of the world.
So only 18% and 23% of people did get actually osimertinib in that, but that similar was there for the Gefitinib, for the NEGM study also. NEGM study actually came 1 year prior to Tata study. They also didn't get more than 30-40% of people.
What was the NEGM arm for Gefitinib?
Same, Gefitinib versus Gefitinib Pemetrexed.
The PFS in that?
16 months. That is what. So
you are talking about the outlier who's absolutely done extremely well in one trial. Okay. Average, if you take, these all are average of trials. So 10 to 14 to 16 months is acceptable, I think.
It's a outlier. So yes.
Are known to respond.
So Japanese surgeons and Japanese patients are better than all of us.
The East Asians are known to respond better to Gefitinib.
Okay.
And since this trial was done in Japan, so that could explain why the results are better with them as compared to what we have got.
Okay, Dr. Raja. Dr. Raja has a point. Then you.
One of the added strengths, again, we can compare here is that of this trial is it really took a difficult population. And that's exactly the population that you are facing in the clinic. And you're having a young patient with a high bulk and has an EGFR-positive and cannot afford osimertinib. Look at that scenario. A very ideal Tata candidate. One other thing is I'm not sure about the maintenance part of the chemotherapy, how well the maintenance part of the chemotherapy in that the Japanese trial versus the Tata trial, how many actually could continue the maintenance Pemetrexed.
I am not sure of that, but
I looked at that because in all our patients where we have done the Tata regime, we have made sure that we have continued the Pemetrexed along with Gefitinib. So for that reason, we tried to look at that. But I think there is a lot of strength and take. The other important thing is that it did not stratify on the EGFR mutations. It's across the board.
So we will come to.
That's a big strength. I mean, even though at that time they didn't plan and so on and so forth, you know very well that osimertinib itself is doing poorly with AL-858R. And then you compare with the Lorlatinib, Gefitinib plus VEGF is doing well in that. So this study has a lot of things as a benefit which is masked.
We did not look at the co-mutation data, Dr. Jay Mehta. We ultimately have to come to the pathologist. So, right now when you are looking at, how many people are, how much on a percent of 100, how many people are sending NGS now, the small NGS panel, the big NGS panel, how many are just sending a single gene sequencing to you?
So I personally, we don't do the long panel, but I think everybody, almost about 80 to 90% would want the shorter NGS panel.
But that shorter NGS panel will not include the co-mutation, the P53 and everything, right?
That's correct, yes.
So you will never have the co-mutation data right now also over there. So the short panel NGS, the coupon scan one, which almost all the companies get, they are only actionable genes, which are mutually exclusive. You will not really get the STK, the KEEPs, the P53, the CCK, and you will not really get those. So we really don't know the data. Yes, Dr. Bharat.
So now we started getting access to cheaper NGS. The T53 is very common. Maybe that
Yes.
is the reason in that subset.
Probably. So we do not have that data till now. Yes, Amish, you have a point.
So, as sir mentioned, let me ask, of course you are supposed to ask questions, but still I can.
Tell me.
You have 100 patients in Rajiv Gandhi, out of which 18 say we can afford osimertinib. वो 18 को आप side पे रख लो कि तुम्हारे बारे में सोचा जाएगा बाद में. You have 82 patients who can't afford osimertinib, who can't afford bevacizumab. Okay. And you have an option, give only Gefitinib or give Gefitinib plus chemotherapy based on this trial. What would you do? That is one. Second thing is, in KN trial, in this, 46% were L858R.
Yes.
Now, even those affording osimertinib, you know the PFS is less in L858R, while here there is no difference between the two. I spoke to Vanita, she said there was no difference. So, what will you do in these patients?
I mean, there is only one problem with this generalization, because now there is data that post-TKI salvage with chemotherapy is actually better than, so what if we sequence all these regimens? So what will be the outcome?
I will show you that, sir. So regarding your question, Amish, if Advait agrees to publish our data of afatinib in NSCLC first line patient, we have around 50 patients which is already accepted for publication in IJC. We have a median PFS of 14.8 months with afatinib. So if I have a patient, which most of our patients do not afford osimertinib, I actually counsel them for second generation TKIs. And second generation TKIs, when I start, I do not start them at 45 mg or 40 mg. I start them at 30 mg. Then I am good friends with my dermatologist. If your dermatologist is good, we do have a checklist about what you are supposed to do, what you are not supposed to do. If life is comfortable with using, in fact, I have people again, 1 or 2 patients we have, but we have a lot of patients going for beyond 2 to 3 years also. A second generation TKI is very good because you look at the toxicities over here. Grade 3 or greater toxicity occurred in 123 patients, that is 75% is Gefitinib plus control arm. Clinically serious toxicity occurred in 50% of people with the chemo plus TKI arm. So toxicity is something which I would like, Dr. Bharat or Sachin can take this one. Anybody who uses this, I don't use this regimen that way, but how is the toxicity? The one which we use when people come from Tata, a lot of nephrotoxicity comes in that. A lot of people have got, after 6 cycles, creatinine of 1.8 and 1.9, they're not supposed to get them anything. That's what happens with me. I don't know. So what is your experience?
Not big number like you or Tata, but there are a couple of patients.
You don't get influenced by Amish.
So I have a biomarker, physician's luck and patient's luck. so far no toxicity. That is very important in IIIA. So far the toxicity is manageable as an onco, if it is by the medical oncologist.
Okay, fair enough. So again the toxicity is yes, Chetan. Yes. Okay. Is not seen. I'll tell Vanita to talk to you. Okay. And the results are good?
Fantastic. So the maintenance, I would like to add here, we delay the maintenance 1 monthly. I have given a couple of patients, instead of 3 weekly, you make it 1 month.
Once in 4 weeks or something. That we do it all the time. Pemetrexed said once in 4 weeks, we do it all the time. Again, one more criticism of study was that, a blinded independent central radiology was not used. It was only investigator assessed PFS and OS, which was one more thing. Now, this is what I would like to show you. This is an abstract which was presented of the updated analysis of NEJ009. That is a Japanese study, and which they basically found out was there was no OS difference between the chemotherapy upfront plus TKI versus chemotherapy followed by TKI. Exactly what Dr. Raja said. So, the PFS to the OS, ultimately there is a lot of debate about the OS. The OS was not significant in the NEJ009 study, and if you do not have a you do not have an OS, then why do you want to really, put the patient on toxicity upfront over there? So, to me, that was the concern. So, yes.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
You said afatinib,
you are not asking me. You will ask the question, then I'll redirect the question to someone else. Okay.
So I'll reframe my.
Yeah, please do.
I am not using Gefitinib.
Okay.
Or because I'm not really convinced about the magnitude of benefit it offers in terms of PFS and OS.
I'm telling you,
So,
14.8 months is our hopefully published data. Otherwise, this is the second time I'm reminding you that.
The only thing though, Japanese NEJ you showed, they have access to all those, no insurance issue, the government is providing. Here we have patients coming from the periphery. Sometimes they don't turn up for the second cycle. Forget about the second line. That is where we look at.
Sure. I mean, so 30% of people will not take, but isn't that the reason where the TKIs will be even more better? Second generation TKIs, 30 mg. The only issue which I face with second generation TKIs is the nails. If you can take care of the paronychia and somehow manage them, be good friends with your dermatologist, life is very comfortable actually with that. So we were a part of Dacometinib compassionate access. We were a part of Afatinib. Now the cost is also very, very cheap for that. So I think it's a very well managed drug. So I have listed down some pros and cons of TKI and chemo combo as the first line. Impressive PFS, increased OS, definitely affordable in the Indian scenario. Treatment can be started early, that is very, you don't have to wait for the EGFR result over there. Toxicity profile is a slightly downer for me. There's a wide variation in the TMH and the Japanese data. Blood-brain activity, we don't know actually. No chemo-free interval. You do want to give some patients chemotherapy. The QOL data, OS data is not yet reported. Yes, Dr. Musamil.
The suggestion, if I take the liberty from the panel.
Yeah, sure.
Trial of Gefitinib with the same chemo.
It is too toxic. A single agent Gefitinib 30 mg is toxic. Gefitinib plus chemo is going to be even more toxic.
Osimertinib with chemo.
Osimertinib plus chemo, Flora 2 is already going. We were a part of that, and it is also toxic. In 2 patients, we had every month one SAE meeting was there only for the the toxicity. It was there every trial every month. हाँ वही दोबारा आ गई क्या हाँ आ गई अब क्या हुआ counts कम हो गए. That was what was happening over there. The no OS was reported in the Japanese study. So my conclusions on the TKI combo, and I will use a picture for everyone. Is it an old wine in a new bottle, or is it a tasty new vintage? To me, the Flora 2 trial, which is comparing OC versus OC plus PEM, will really decide about that. But it's a good option. I'm not saying it's a bad option at all. If the patient is willing to take the toxicity, it's a good option, but other things are also available. Having said that, to me, if osimertinib was not even 10 rupees, if it was 50 rupees, I will any day give osimertinib to my patient because of an oral pill actually. So relay is fantastic, but the point again, toxicity profile again, one. The other is you require infusions every once in 2 weeks. So again, the point of this and the toxicity profile. Otherwise, the median PFS of 19.6 months is the highest, even better than osimertinib. So we will have to wait for the OS. Anti-angiogenic agents have never ever shown to have an increased overall survival. Only the PFS has increased. So, but it's a good option. I don't mind using that actually. So we have actually, we have analyzed our 150 patients of EGFR. We've done an NGS on them. We have looked at the co-mutation data. And that co-mutation data, we are getting a lot of PIK3CAs. We are getting a lot of CCKND wala. We are getting a lot of P53s. So we are analyzing our data. The moment we have 200, we wanted to compare 200 people of EGFR mutation, their co-mutation, we'll get back to you with the data. But the point is that we have given only first generation to the most of the people. So there will be something, but yes, the co-mutations are there for real.
Ullas,
yes.
Since we get on this, the question here is always the subsequent therapies when you progress on osimertinib.
Yes.
That is the drawback
Yes.
in that. If your 19 months is the benchmark, and if this study is going somewhere close to it, my question is that with this study, was there any data analysis about, what was the T790?
No, so there was no change. See, we have to remember this data was analyzed in 2015 to 2018. At that time T790M was not very done very regularly. Only 18% and 23%, Amit Joshi will know better, 18 and 23% of people actually got osimertinib in the second line. There was no difference in the development of T790M between the Gefitinib or the Gefitinib plus chemotherapy arm. So there was nothing which could increase actually. So now moving on to Amish Vora's favorite regimen, the CheckMate 9LA design. And this one is again immunotherapy in the first line NAC immuno combination, a very famous combination called as IIIA combination, made very famous by Senthil. IIIA combination, this was IIIA, one more IO combination in that. So simple, you have chemotherapy, that is in arm B, versus Nivo EP for 2 years and chemotherapy only for 2 cycles. So this is something which I basically called as a Coca-Cola Light, that is the Chemo Lite regimen. You know, you have a chemo heavy, you have a Chemo Lite regimen. So I'll again start with Dr. Muzammil. Is there a rationale of adding CTLA-4 inhibitors to PD-L1 inhibitors? You know, I didn't want to put that the one WhatsApp chat in the group. Yesterday in the group there was a discussion. Why is it that Dr. Jim Ellison takes all the credit while Dr. Honyo doesn't take the credit? You know, he's the one who got CTLA. Why is CTLA a poor cousin of the PDL1? So is there a rationale?
Maybe the toxicity management of this CTLA-4 group of drugs, where PDLA as a single agent is more smooth to handle. Coming to the rationale, you know, there is a proven rationale behind combining these two. These two are immune drugs acting through different mechanisms. CTLA-4 basically, you know, it upregulates your T cell and hence the immune responses, and also causes, you know, formation of more T cells which are active. Versus PDL1 or L1 inhibitors, they basically modify or make the existing T cells more, you know, effective for anti-cancer. Okay. So there is a rationale.
Rationale of, so I'll just go for this. This was a very nice editorial which was there in JTO, which said, you know, PDL1 inhibitors in NSCLC, 2 heads are better than 1. So the 2 heads could be the chemotherapy head and the PDL1. It could be the PDL1 and the CTLA-4. And these were the things that, you know, CTLA and PDL1, there is definitely a rationale. One acts on the lymphoid organ, one acts on the effector T cells. And with chemotherapy also, it increases the, you know, it upregulates the PDL1 expression. So Dr. Jay Mehta, I mean, you know, I mean, I'll have to ask you certain questions, and this is a highly clinical topic so that you don't sleep over there. Okay, yes. So is there a rationale of adding CTLA-4 to PDL1?
Yes, so as you know, Muzammil mentioned that, you know, CTLA-4 just upregulates the T cells, as more proliferation of T cells, and this one just awakens the T cells, the PDL1. So yeah, I mean, biologically it makes sense.
It makes sense.
I understand the toxicity is an issue with.
We will come to that, whether it makes sense or not. It does make sense. It actually makes more sense that, you know, CTLA plus 4 IO should be a winner all the time. I mean, it's very unlikely that why is IO not really becoming this. So what about 2 cycles of chemotherapy only? I mean, is there a rationale for that? I mean, from where did they come with 2 cycles of chemotherapy?
Actually, the same thing, that chemo potentiates the effect of this IO. And I think they were also scared about the early progression seen with this group of drugs given alone, unchecked. So
I think this is what you absolutely right said. Look at the head and tail of the survival curve. If you look at this, this is a CheckMate 227. Actually, the Nivo EP arm, actually, if you look at this, you know, it actually goes down the red one and then comes up on the top. It was almost like a Mumbai Indian team in the last season. Now the Mumbai Indian team, the less said the better about them. It is started at last, it is ending at last. There's some brownie points to be scored when Delhi is doing better than Mumbai, you know. Okay.
So for this season, they are not Mumbai Indians, they are Reliance Indians.
Okay.
The market is also down.
So this is exactly what is called as torturing the data. They will never accept that Mumbai is not doing well, you know. So I'm a Mumbaikar fan. I mean, I love Sachin Tendulkar, so I will always be a Mumbai fan. But unfortunately, it is not happening. So just to prevent that early dip, actually here, the red graph, there was a point in giving 2 cycles of chemotherapy. So 2 cycles of chemo, Dr. Bharat, is this the deciding factor? You tell your patient, we are going to give you double immuno, we are going to give you only 2 cycles of chemo, come on, take it.
Something new. So I think the point which is taken to care of the pseudo progression or progression happens radiologically in the first. I think that is the rationale.
No, not the rationale. I mean, is this the game changer for you?
I don't think it's a game changer, because we, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning, we are trying to give less chemo, but 2 chemo or 4 chemo, you are giving chemo at the end.
Okay, so 2 versus 4 is not really a game changer for you. You know, you have to sell this to your patient. You know, why you should take treatment from you and not from me. He is giving 4 cycles of chemo, only 1 immuno. I'm giving 2 immuno, only 2 chemo. Come, take chemo.
Yeah. So now with the NGS availability more on more patients.
Can I just?
Yeah, so we have stratified patients, those who are mutation positive, those who are PDL1s 1% to 49% and 50% above. very small subset left with no, there where you, if you want to use this, you can use. I'm still not convinced to use this particular 2
You're
cycles.
still not comfortable. Okay, no Pemetrexed maintenance. How comfortable you are with this idea? You know, again, we are all turning the conventional wisdom on its head. Initially, all the JMDB studies said giving Pemetrexed maintenance 3 months of this thing was there. No, it didn't give such, and I'll show you here. I'll show you here. I read it actually over there. PEM maintenance was not given. PEM maintenance was not given in the CheckMate 9LA. So you know, I mean, what is happening now is we are actually, whatever we learned in 2009, we are unlearning in 2022. Yes, Jay. We are speaking about that.
Chemo thing.
Okay.
So a lot of times you have seen that and have even read about it, that once you give chemo, the PD-L1 is upregulated. Does it kind of prime that, or is it making it more kind of sensitive to the IO? I'm just
the only reason why they are giving 2 cycles of chemo is to tide over the early period. You know, when there's an early dip over there, that's the only reason why they want to go ahead and give chemotherapy. That's the only thing actually. So let us look at this data. Dr. Muzammil, impressed or not impressed? You know, there was no early dip actually, if you see, and 2 years ago 38% versus 26%, HR of 0.72. Impressed, not impressed?
So. Meaning, yes.
So, okay, fine. That was a good one. I am so nice that BMS people are not listening to this over there. This is Amish's favorite regimen. So if you want to get invited again, you know, I mean, Amish is one who is CheckMate 9LA. Okay. Yes, Dr. Sachin.
If we compare only with chemotherapy, obviously impressed.
Okay.
But when we want to take consideration of other chemo plus IO combination, then it's maybe
okay, 5 on 10. That is what you will give. Dr. Bharat, how much will you give?
I'm just looking at the control arm. With 4 cycles of chemotherapy, look at the figures.
Okay.
57%, 26%, these are also not bad.
But a median OS of 11 months is what we were expecting with 4 cycles of maintenance after that.
I always know, look at what I'm going to do in my clinic. When
okay, fair enough. There's Dr. Amish and then Lisa. Yeah. You can go ahead first. Amish has been talking all the day. Dr. Raja sir, once again.
Any comments on baseline brain mets without targetable mutation with this regimen?
Yeah, so any comments on the baseline mets? This regimen was better. In fact, in people with brain mets, Nivo-IP did much better. So that may be a USP of this regimen. Dr. Raja.
The USP of this regimen is, as you said, the early crossover has been mitigated. And of course, this really extends the opportunity for PDL1 negative or zero.
So you don't want to do a PDL1.
That's exactly the strength
of Dr. Raja, sir, I mean, my point over there is even for Keynote 189, you don't require to, you don't require to do PDL1. Whether it is more than 50, 1 to 49, less than 0, you can give chemo combo to everyone.
No, less than 1, I think it was not. I
will show you the less than 1 data, sir. I will show you the less than 1 data.
So the point is here again, we are trying to capture that whatever alive and persisting on that particular trial. So again, we are looking at a patient subset where we want to convert them into that long term. We want to avoid the early progression. So you need to select your patient for this.
Okay, Dr. Amish, you had a point. Same the PDL1 story. This is also the forest plot which said, and anything which anyone wants to comment on this, Dr. Bharat or anyone with this?
Only age thing, you know.
Only age thing, more than 75. Okay.
Enough data that meaning if I follow this, I should say that 75 beyond you should not take him, you know. But that is not.
Doctor, come a bit down. Three rows down. There's a smoking data also over there. In never smokers, this regimen actually did not do better. You think we are torturing the data actually?
Number is very small, but that.
Okay, very small number. So your opinion about that? Hot, cold, warm? I think we all are saying warm for this. We're not really jumping out of a thing. So yes.
I've been asking this question since first OBTO.
Yes.
Is forest plot chart the deciding factor? Is it hypothesis? Why do we give so much of importance to subgroup analysis?
Why I'm telling you this, I'll tell you why. So why did I give importance to that was because for smoking in IO, this is a very important point I want to bring in. If you look at this data set, your people who have never smoked do not do well with only 2 cycles of IO. Now let's have more data with this. You look at a real world, this was a ESMO virtual plenary in which people who never smoked again did not do well with only Pembro monotherapy. So if you have a smoker with PDL1 more than 50%, if you have a non-smoker with PDL more than 50%, you need to give 2 more cycles or 4 more cycles of chemotherapy. The non-smoking will never only respond to single agent immunotherapy or doublet. So maybe 2 cycles of chemotherapy are not enough. If you have a non-smoker, maybe you need to give 4 more cycles of chemotherapy and pembrolizumab. If you really want to, look behind the obvious, and as Dr. Raja said, swim beyond the obvious, you need to have a look at this data actually. So this was the smoking. Any comments from the panel on this?
There's enough data for this, what you said.
Yeah. So
supplement.
Again, the point here again is all these people have not done a NGS on all their patients. So whether we are missing out actually on other targetable mutation in our scenario, when you have 60% of patients, you have 29% of patients who have EGFR, you have 10% of patients who have ALK, but you still have 10 to 12% more of patients who can have other things. Maybe that is the reason that maybe it doesn't really act. So what about the PDL1? Do you see a point in treating PDL1 anymore now? I mean, do you test for PDL1, Dr. Jay Mehta? I mean, I am telling you PDL1 kar bhi lo to koi baat nahi, na bhi kar lo to koi baat nahi. You tell us, give us some good explanation of why we should do. Okay, he did say that. Okay, the surgeon. Okay, surgeons will come to one question. The next one now.
I would say do it, yeah.
Do it, yeah. I mean, you do it. We have invested so much onto that.
Take the game.
Okay.
What about 50% PDL1?
Yeah. So what about PDL1 50%? So, I now equate a regimen, for stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer as either you can give a houseful 3 movie. You can give immunotherapy alone. You can give IO chemo. You can give IO. You can give IO Chemo Lite. And even more, you will have even more regimens which are coming over there in the near future. So now let's analyze PDL1 more than 50%. Dr. Mozammel spoke about that. Your choice in PDL1 more than 50%. What would you do?
Currently, I will give monotherapy.
Currently, you will give IO monotherapy. What about IIO combination? One is good enough, so why I have to, no? Dr. Sachin?
As per the data, obviously the magnitude of benefit is same even in those who had PDL1 more than 50% with the combination versus the monotherapy. But then conceptually, if you are saying if that's the one which is immunologically driven disease, then combination will have a.
What will you give?
I will give combo.
You will give combo. Oh, fantastic. Which combo will you give?
EOIP.
IIO combination. Fantastic. Bharat?
So PDL1 more than 50%, patient is a chronic smoker, disease burden is not that much or no, it's not symptomatic. I would think of only single agent IO.
Only IO. Okay. So this is the data I think which is very, very clear. I've compared all the trials with PDL1 more than 50%. Your best results actually are with single agent immunotherapy with an HR of 0.63. In fact, a very important trial is the KN5, not the Kumar Narona. It's a Keynote 598 trial, which actually showed combination of Pembro plus IPI does not work in PDL1 more than 50%. So if you have a patient of PDL1 more than 50%, if the patient is a smoker, please go ahead and give them only immunomonotherapy. If it is a non-smoker, you can think about KN189 regimen actually.
CheckMate, yes. You have not, 9LA you have not.
9LA I have done over there, 0.67, the red one.
More than 50% was,
0.67, yeah. So then why give toxicity? What about, yes.
PDL1 more than 90%.
So, so more than the higher the PDL1 you have, the higher the chance of this thing, but it's not really been formally tested. It's all the retrospective data. But the higher the PDL1, the higher the percent of response actually is.
So Dr. Ullas, one question.
Yes.
Allow me that. The
Again, you will redirect me to me. I will ask whether if it is the easy one, I'll answer.
Not a question. So PDL1 score is very, very high. Can you reduce the dose at some point of time?
Okay, can you reduce the dose? So I think Amol is not there. I have all my life been giving, before the approval came for this, I have all my life been giving 2 milligram per kg body weight to people. And this has been validated by a host number of people, including Solange Peters, Tony Mock. I mean, they say give 2 milligram of kg body weight doesn't make a difference actually.
So I have 2 patients who have done excellent with 100 milligram.
Yes, that's what. So what I do is I give 100, 100. Once in a while when they have money, I give them 200. Then I give 100, 100. So you negotiate with them. Yes, Dr. Raja. Sir, KN you have to clarify, sir. Keynote or Kumar Narona? The foreign KN.
The foreign KN.
Not the indigenous KN.
Foreign KN. So single agent pembrolizumab well taken, but now there are increasing interest in looking at the subset of patient with a high PDL1 where you want to add chemo to that single agent pembrolizumab. So that's already out. So, you need the tumor volume, clinical. So,
yes.
So the point is, it's a large, it's a spectrum, and then you try to like you can pick whatever best looking that you want to choose.
Sir, if you look at this data, if I can show you this data, actually this data says even with people with liver metastasis and brain metastasis, the single agent immunotherapy was good enough. The only place where the single agent required chemo was non-smokers.
No. There is data, I can send it across to you. Clinically symptomatic patient having
obviously, sir. When you want a response, you obviously will add chemotherapy.
And all my patients who are on single agent pembro doing well, they are all actually female non-smoker. I'm just thinking, I have a real collection of them, so I was just wondering,
maybe we can do it
more than just the PDL1. It must be like
obviously,
what you said,
sir. Obviously,
you need to look at the full NGS. And
obviously, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, the next one, Dr. Amish. I have only 9 minutes remaining. Okay, next one is 1 to 49%, Keynote 189 or CheckMate 9LA. Okay, I'll make it easy for you. For 1 to 49, the HR actually is 0.70 for CheckMate 9LA, and that for Keynote 9 it is 0.4 to 0.55. So again, you will basically take the Keynote 189. But where it is more important is PDL1 less than 1%. So this is the data about PDL1 more than less than 1%. Anybody, Amish, you want to comment? Since you were telling me I was yawning at 9 o'clock in the morning, that too before Sudeep Gupta's lecture. You can give pembro plus chemo. That's the standard of care actually. But 0.59 and 0.62 is not much of a difference. Okay. So if you now look at this is again, we are actually splitting.
You were trying to give the CONS of paper was why give chemo. I think if the patient of PDL1 less than 1% says, I don't want.
So I will tell them this. So look at the last one. If you have a squamous, so just compare squamous, the HR of 0.47 with a Keynote of 407, that's 0.61. It's again a subset analysis, but if there is one benefit of one place where I can actually find out a comprehensive advantage of a CheckMate 9LA, that is in a PDL1 negative squamous cell population. Again, splitting it a bit too far, but that's the subset analysis. That's the best we have. Yes, Dr. Joshi.
I think the other important factor with the toxicity profile of in this where the hazard ratio is more or less which is more toxic. So that will also decide 0.62 and 0.59 is not much.
It's not much of difference.
Combination of IO plus IO is a tough game.
It's a tough game. Absolutely
so,
right.
Though we advocate, but when we come to the practice, it's at least for initial 4 cycles.
Fantastic. So again, the pros and cons of IO Chemo Lite regimen, only 2 cycles of chemo. Theoretically, 2 heads are better than 1. Here we have 3 heads actually. Activity in squamous with PDL1 negative. It has got CNS activity, which I didn't show, which Dr. Raja really said. Long-term data is awaited. We have a 3-year OS update in ASCO this time. Hopefully, sir will allow us to present it next month. Toxicity of CTLA-4 inhibitors will continue for 2 years. There is no real advantage over Keynote 189. So my conclusions on CheckMate 9LA, I don't know whether everybody agree. This is like the IO-IO combination in non-small cell lung cancer, asking for one more chance from non-small cell lung cancer. And I'm sure this one chance, CM227, I'll not give a chance, but if I were a stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer, I give some amount of chance to CheckMate 9LA regimen. So that's the second paper that we discussed. And
other disadvantage will be the cost of the therapy. The combo is going to be too much.
Dr. Ahmed, you came later. Now everything is 10 rupees. Everything is 10 rupees. Nothing is more than that. It's only 10 rupees. Which 10 rupees, I don't know. Okay. The next one, we have a surgeon over here. IM Power 010 study design. I think I'll have time for only one. Do you think there is an unmet need for giving chemotherapy for in the adjuvant setting in immunotherapy?
Yes, I do agree. So thing is that even after surgery, higher the stage, outcome is poorer. So if you see DFS in a stage 3 patient, it's what around, OS 5-year OS is around 36.
Yeah, so I typically say,
in those cases, we do need
absolutely right. I typically say, the lung cancer actually begins where the where the breast cancer actually ends. You know, breast cancer 5-year survival of a stage 2 or stage 3 is 70%. In a lung cancer, your stage 1 only will live for 76%. So, you know, there is definitely an unmet need. This trial had an unmet need for getting that. The DFS versus the OS dilemma, I think everything has been said, but if Dr. Bharat can just take it, do you think in an adjuvant setting, Bharat, DFS and OS is good enough? Or, you know, or are we lowering the bar actually over here?
So when you have many therapies available and no sequencing that, then we can debate about this. But like a disease like lung cancer, you accept that it is a bad disease. And most of the patients relapse, especially for node positive or larger tumors. There we should take it, no, whatever earlier data comes.
We should take whatever comes. This is not.
So DFS data like, you know, osimertinib still we debate. No, the hazard ratio is 0.1.
Yeah, true that. Amish, DFS versus the OS data, are we lowering the bar? No, not at all. We are happy with that. No, that's okay. Okay, because we have very little time. So this is the data in the adjuvant setting. I mean, to be very honest, this is trial I initially said 1. Initially we'll keep it as number 1, but we have very few patients. So I thought we will keep it at number 3. In the PD1, TC more than 1%, the HR was 0.66. When you took at all the patients, it became 0.79. But if you included 1B patient also, it became 0.04. The HR was 0.81. Impressed? Not impressed. Hot, cold, warm.
When it comes to the cost effectiveness, 1 year of IO.
Forget the cost, 10 rupees.
So not very impressive
10 rupees.
for me. Not
Not really. You are not. You are willing
to
give
1 year.
Okay.
1 year. So it's not it.
Okay, 1 cycle was enough. Okay.
Not for all patients, but maybe for select subgroups.
So, you know, we just said in stage 3, you have a 24% 5-year, 76% will relapse actually in stage 3. You know those people are going to relapse. If you have a PDL1 patient which is more than 50%, then why not give it right now? Now, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for the patient to relapse?
The graph is not for only for stage 3. It's obviously for stage 2 and 3. Out of the stage 3, where only, I would believe, 40%.
Okay. I'll show you the stage 3 graph also. No, it is not. Okay, fair enough. Dr. Muzammil?
Very select subgroup.
So this was a statistical hierarchical design actually. So first they got in this and then this and then this. Yes.
So that's a good way of dealing, I think, hierarchical method. But data is good for select subgroup of patients. What I think you have not shown is for those who are more than 50% PDL1.
So I showed this here.
Yeah, sorry.
So if the benefit basically was driven by PDL1 more than 50%, for 1 to 49% it was 0.87, for TC less than 1% it was not really beneficial. Yes, Dr.
Why I said not impressive, because there are currently trials going on in the neoadjuvant setting. We have results of neoadjuvant trials also.
Okay.
And very good pathological CR. So if at all I have to use perioperatively, why not to discuss those trials also?
So you are thinking you will use a neoadjuvant setting basically.
We have a data with excellent data. That is also, you know.
So what I would like everyone to see, so last 2 minutes for all those people who are unfortunately awake right now. You know, so here the benefit was basically shown in the PDL1 more than 50%. And 1 to 49 did not do well. PDL1 less than 1 just did not do well. In fact, the approval is only for PDL1 more than 1%. Fantastic. Doesn't make a difference. So just when you thought it was all getting over, the last one, this was the Keynote 091 study, which was presented last month in ESMO virtual plenary. Similar design, patient got surgery, patient got chemo, then patient was randomized to pembrolizumab versus observation. And what this trial actually, the overall magnitude of benefit was same, but what it actually showed, what we actually assume is that people with PDL1 more than 50% with pembro will do best. Unfortunately, in this trial, they did not do the best. So the atezo trial, PDL1 more than 50% did the fantastic, did the majority of the job. Here, PDL1 more than 50% did not do. And if you actually see the curves over here, the benefit is 0.78 for PDL1 negative, less than 1%, and it is 0.82 for more than 50%. Why? Yes, that is the most important question. Why? No, sir. It is no, sir.
The atezolizumab, it is both the TC and IC.
No, sir. It was SP263. The analysis was done on SP263. It was not done on 22C3.
I was just looking at what the immune cells are
So
doing there.
I heard the ESMO virtual plenary twice to find out what exactly was happening around, and they just say we have to wait for the more mature data to come. Dr. Jai, here I want to ask you, we have had this conversation many times. Do you really think the blueprint project SP263 and 22C3 are similar?
No, I mean, there are issues with that. So it's about the staining patterns that you see. The SP263 just has a step which amplifies the signal, and therefore you tend to overcall things. The 22C3 is better. It gives you a more practical kind of a score out of between the two, I feel.
So yes.
One piece of information.
Yeah, sure.
This trial, while they were enrolling, it was SP142.
Yes.
While they were
analyzing,
they shifted to
yes,
the amendment.
that is right. But the analysis which I have shown is on the basis of SP263 actually.
So our experience about PDL1 is for metastatic setting, most of what we practice.
Yes.
Where tissue biopsy is used for the
here so you will use a resected
Here you use the resected specimen. So what is the difference? Does it make any difference or it gives?
It would, because it's so heterogeneous. So if you have a resection specimen, you're more likely to have a clearer picture versus a core biopsy, which might have undergone, kind of sampled an area which would have been negative. So you get a more fairer kind of a clear distribution with the resection specimen.
Okay, so that was the third one. Again, the pros and cons of immunotherapy in the adjuvant setting. The impressive DFS advantage. There is no added toxicity profile of immunotherapy. 2 trials have proven the DFS advantage. However, there is a discrepancy in the PDL1 subgroup analysis of the 2 trials. DFS versus OS debate, we don't know whether we're going to wait for the OS. Adjuvant versus the new adjuvant debate, we don't know whether to give it a new adjuvant or the adjuvant. Rule in biomarker driven non-small cell lung cancer. I'll answer that. If you have an EGFR mutant, if you have PD-L1 more than 50%, please do not give immunotherapy. Please give osimertinib to that patient, or don't give anything. The cost is obviously going to be a concern. So my conclusion, yes.
Without a proper base, building a proper base or nave, we have created a very tall building of immunotherapy is what happens. We don't have our markers in right place right now. Whether it should be PDL1, TMB, TILS, we don't know, but we are adding on trials after trials.
We are not missing a mole anymore now in the post-lunch session. Thank you. So on that note, my conclusions on IM Power 010 is like this guy going to propose. This is again, immunotherapy proposing to non-small cell lung cancer adjuvant. So what will we say? This is my last slide, so I am not going to say anything more. Dr. Muzammil, but if you were the girl, what will you say? This girl is non-small cell lung cancer. Which girl? This is the effect that post-lunch has. So if this is the non-small cell lung cancer and the immunotherapy is proposing an adjuvant setting, what would you say?
I will pass it to Bharat.
You will pass on to Bharat? The girl or the question? Okay. Sachin is not. See, that is why, everybody has to go back home to wives. So that is no one is asking this question. Yes, Sachin first.
माँ को पूछ के आऊंगी.
माँ को पूछ के आऊंगा. And who is the mom over here? Yes, Bharat.
So I am happy to look at the positive change. Now there is a drug.
Yes or no?
Yes. I would offer no selective patient. This is selective patient.
Selective patient. Dr. Jai, no. Okay, yes.
After sitting through the entire day, I think Monday morning I'm going to start practicing medical
oncology. So that is why there is a chutti tomorrow in Tata, so that Jai doesn't come over there. So your point, finally, the surgeon's point.
No, I think this doesn't give a very solid proof of adding immuno so far.
Okay.
So I think we have to wait for some.
You still want to say consider surgery is the best, and then remaining will come later. So my this thing was yes, as I think Bharat rightly said, with some terms and conditions. So that is what we will actually look. With this, thank you. I think I've overstayed my welcome in Opto. Thank you. And thank you all my panelists for a fantastic discussion. Thank you. And I hope nobody is sleeping right now.
Thank you very much.
Delhi is hitting last over 6 actually. At least.
So first of all, I will pass on the message to Amol that whether he is present or absent, he is still present. So thank you very much to all the die-hard fans of Oncology Beyond the Obvious. Clearly, this has been a really fantastic program. And the most important reason why it is fantastic is that 100 hours of work has been put in by all the moderators and Amish in selecting the papers that are to be discussed. 100 hours, it's not just something like that. And then the full text of the papers were circulated to the panelists in advance so that they could read and come prepared, gather their thoughts and then, share their insights, reading between the lines. And I think this has been a very, very important part. One lesson that I'm taking back is the 10 rupees lesson. So every time there is some discussion about the cost and then it is left hanging. So one of the things that we would like to do next time is to add real cost comparisons. You take the publication, you see the new experimental arm which is supposed to be a landmark practice changing, and we will compare that to the standard of care. And not only look at the cost of the drug, but also look at the cost for the patient to come to the hospital at each visit, as well as the cost of taking the treatment for the side effects. And then let's come to a tabulated, clear-cut estimate of the real cost differences between the two. And hopefully that will continue to add value to OBTO. The next monthly session, which is online, will happen on the second Tuesday of next month, which is the 14th of June. So once more, thank you very much on behalf of myself and on behalf of Amish Vora. I sincerely thank all of you for making this extremely successful by the real in-depth analysis. And we hope that we have your support to make that even more successful in the future. Thank you very much. Tea, coffee and cookies are served outside. Please make sure you have enough energy to reach home.